Hey, welcome to the Joel Fleischman Happy Hour podcast, episode number 77. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We've got some Drexel horse medicine, sponsored by Sunnyville Waters. Again, it's still
Cheers.
Lent. I'm drinking the Blue Door Black Cherry, made in Shawano, Wisconsin. First sips.
That's good.
Excellent.
I've read the story on this one before. My neighbor had it at his house.
We are coming up with Drexel Light this year. T-shirts are being made, and we'll be giving, every can we'll be giving money to, it's going to be for the builders, so Drexel Light for the builders, and every can we're going to be giving money towards local trade schools.
Very cool.
To support the trade programs that are going on in our area. So we are buying, I believe, 10 pallets of Drexel Light that will be coming to our locations, as well as we're having the T-shirts printed. Pretty cool T-shirts, pretty cool designs, pretty cool project we're working on. That's the reason you listen to our podcast for breaking news. Today I have Casey Scheel and Chad Cook, lifelong friends, and are here today. We're going to be talking about basketball. It is March Madness. Three of the biggest basketball junkies I know, Chad Cook, Casey Scheel, and Marcus. Right, Marcus?
True.
Marcus, what's your background again in basketball?
Yeah, so I played at Marion University for 4 years, and I coached a year at UW Superior, a year at Carroll, 8 years at Marion, and 2 years at Lakeland.
And you don't talk much about your personal basketball, but I heard you're a baller. I know you don't play anymore, but what was your high school career? What's your personal basketball?
Yeah, went to Antigo High School up north. Not a very good high school basketball career. We were pretty bad. My excuse is that we had 4 varsity coaches in 4 years. So
it doesn't help.
True, but yeah, it doesn't help. So the high school basketball experience wasn't great, which is part of the reason why I wanted to play at the college level too. Was kind of that fire of making it a little bit better. And yeah, I went to Marion, found a good fit there, and didn't start over 4 years, but played all 4 years and contributed.
What were your stats in high school?
Very modest, like 8 points a game and 4 or 5 assists, something like that. Nothing crazy.
Point guard?
Yeah.
Point guard, shooting guard?
Yeah, point guard. Wonderful.
Seems smart. Yeah, you're a smart player. I can tell. Yeah. You're on their fit of you. Cool. All right. Let's do basketball careers. Go ahead.
Ooh.
Well, that'll be our bio.
4 year.
I've known Casey so long that when I knew Chad in 8th grade, you were in your mom's belly.
That is true.
Fun fact.
So Chad and I are brothers. 4 years of starting varsity basketball at Kewaskum High School. Kind of the same thing. Your background. We didn't have a lot of success winning. Had a change of coach after my junior year. Finally started to get some success. Senior year, I think we finished right around 500. Knocked off the 1 seed in the playoffs, St. John's Military Academy. Then we lost a couple points to Port Washington, who ended up going to state and winning state that year. They had Josh Gosser on the team. I was more of a distributor on the floor, looking back. Wish I would have shot more. Wish I would have had your mentality.
You do it open gyms now.
Oh yeah, that's open gyms now.
Yeah.
Gotta let it fly.
Yeah.
But no, then after high school, I actually fun story, was on the Marquette women's practice squad when I went to school at Marquette. That was a great experience. I learned a ton. Terry Mitchell was the head coach, and her practices were so fun, and learned a lot doing that.
That's a voluntary job, right?
Yep. So we had 5 guys that most of them played. Some were Division III transfers in college that would come in, and
they approached you. You approached them.
They had signs around campus that they needed practice squad guys, and it was kind of show up at a practice, and they'll kind of figure out which ones they want to keep. And we got our group of 5-6 guys, and we would basically just be their scrimmage team.
Did you go to their games then? Were you did you feel like you were part of their program?
Little bit. I worked for the athletic department, so I actually worked a lot of the women's games.
Yeah.
But it was always fun because when they'd be playing UConn that week, and you'd be Diana Taurasi, and or it'd be Jolene Anderson, the leading scorer from Wisconsin. It was kind of fun because you're like, that was me all week.
So you learned how to have the green light.
Literally, that was a huge reason why.
Yeah.
I got that mentality because it was like, hey, this is your job. This is what you do. You shoot 15 to 20 times a game, and that's what you're going to do in practice. It's like, awesome.
I can do that.
I can do that.
Cool.
Yeah. So after that, and then got into, now I'm more into the AAU side of it with Kewaskum Eagles and kind of stay active in the game. And
You're the president of that?
president of that.
Kids
Well,
will
you're the
that?
president. I'm the director.
Yeah, but you run the show. You're the director, you run the show.
Yeah.
Little kids, so they're not in the sports yet?
Yep. I've got a 7-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old boy. The older two are girls. Taking them to the state basketball tournament and the girls run through state has been probably the coolest thing to watch with them, because now they want to go home. They put their T-shirts on. They're playing games in the living room. They're playing basketball. They're playing each other.
I think they found the love.
I think they did.
Yeah, that's cool. You'll find out.
Find out.
You don't know. Chad.
Okay, I'm next. I played high school basketball with Joel for all through high school. We graduated together.
Not sophomore year, you were on varsity. I was
Yeah, so I was
Biggest
one of the
scam.
fortunate guys
One of
in
the biggest scams in Kewaskum history.
ball handling and shooting can help you out in that regard
I could
once in
shoot.
a while.
Maybe
But
ball handling was a problem.
so back in the early 90s, I was one of the fortunate guys to play for the same coach for all 4 years. We had Jim Westfall our freshman year. He, by chance, moved up to the varsity head coach job, and I played varsity sophomore through senior year. I don't know, I probably similar to everybody in this room. Maybe Joel scored a little bit more, but kind of along the same lines, probably averaged, I don't know, 11, 12, 13 points a game, something like that. We did not have a
3-point specialist.
3-point specialist.
Which back in the early 90s, for you young folk listening, you had a 3-point specialist.
That was
They
not
shot
a
threes.
that was not a job for everybody on the court. It was one or
Very
two
few.
guys like, you are a shooter. It was very much
Yeah.
more role driven
I was
when the
not.
3-point line
Yeah.
came about, which was in the 87-88 season in Wisconsin. So we actually went all through high school with the 3-point line. So
And even if you played teams, you would know which guy was a 3-point
Yeah,
shooter.
yeah,
It was
that-
very,
again.
very obvious. Like no one was hiding it, and there was nobody one night would just light it up. Either they were or they weren't.
yeah, there weren't very many players that, again, whether it was a role thing or, it just seemed so far away that very few guys developed that kind of range to even think about shooting from there. But
I just never practiced from that
Yeah.
range because I didn't.
yep,
I wasn't allowed to shoot from that range, so it wasn't in my consciousness at all.
and being 5'9", it always intrigued me to play more out there than what was I going to do in the lane. So.
Yeah.
But we had a decent team, probably a little bit of unmet expectations, which we probably can relate to a lot over the years. We had some pretty good talent, and I think we ended up, I don't know, a couple games under 500 actually our senior year, and it was disappointing. So not a whole lot of success in that regard, but we certainly all developed a passion for the game and have a lot of fond memories of playing high school basketball. Went on to UWM, of course, not in any kind of basketball playing capacity, but played a lot of fun intramural leagues throughout college. There were a lot of great non-collegiate players that were playing intramural ball, got a chance to play with a lot of the guys that were on the team, and that's when you realize, like, wow, getting a shot off in those sort of environments is pretty amazing. It doesn't happen very often, and it's not easy to do. I continued coaching. I have 5 kids, so have coached youth basketball in Kewaskum for many, many years. I don't even care to count how many it's been.
You're
Coached for the
probably
Eagles.
15 plus?
Yeah, 15 plus, somewhere in there, in various age levels, capacities, and coach with the Eagles. I just completed my 4th year being with our Kewaskum High School staff as a varsity assistant. That's been a lot of fun, very rewarding. Certainly having a couple of my own boys come through the program, that's been an outstanding experience too.
All good players.
So, yeah, that's probably one of my favorite. It's kind of a telling basketball story, but like I said before, definitely not a big scorer in any capacity, but had one game against Lamira with 32 points. And I remember, I think it's what probably gave me the most respect for these guys that can average 20-plus points a game. I think I scored 32 that night. And a couple nights later, I don't know why I remember this, but we played Sheboygan Falls, and I think I had 3 points that game. And that was before Huddle, before YouTube, but somehow they're like, yeah, this dude scored a bunch of points, and he ain't going to do that again tonight. And, yeah, that wasn't, so these guys that can come in and do it night in, night out, you just develop a lot of respect for that type of skill level and the ability to get that done every night, because it's not easy to do.
Geez, I got to do like a long bio now?
That's it.
That was
It's
a
your
lot
turn.
of bio. I don't know. I wasn't prepared for anything, for me to say anything, but I feel like, no, I need to. My basketball path. 5th grade, I was the worst player on the team for a small Holy Trinity team. We had maybe 9 kids. By far the worst player. I really didn't know the rules. I didn't know what this meant, which was double dribble. I didn't know the subtle things like what a charge meant. My shoes were so cheap. They were from, it's like Shopko, I think, and they slid so much. If I caught the ball, I would travel. And then my hand-eye coordination was so bad, my fingers were constantly jammed because I couldn't catch the ball properly. Like on a rebound, they would just jam up. And then, this will speed up, but then 6th grade year, I was like, I got to get on the court somehow because I was a 30 for 30 player. So 30 seconds left or up or down 30. Literally, you had to play 30 seconds left in the...
It's the first time I've ever heard that one.
Yeah, 20 players. up 20, up 20, down 20 or 20 seconds left. But I was a 30 for 30. You had to play 30 seconds in the league, and I would go in, right? I knew when I was coming in. Coach would say, go in. I'm like, yep, 30 seconds left. Here we go. Probably deserve that. And then I remember I had 2 sisters, lived in the country, didn't have many hobbies, so I thought I'm just going to practice. I'm going to play next year. I remember I got most improved my 6th grade year, maybe whatever. And then by 8th grade year, I was quote-unquote best player on the team. But I was a big dude. I was about as big as I am now in 8th grade. Freshman year, played with Chad. We had a real good team. That's kind of where I got my... In 8th grade, I didn't chuck like I did in freshman year. Freshman year, I remember one time, coach told me, I don't care if you shoot with your right or left hand, when you get the ball, just shoot. And then junior year, we installed the Loyola Marymount offense. And we were trying to shoot every 7 seconds, if I remember correct. Is that right?
Yeah,
within 7 seconds.
We sat in Coach Westfall's English literature classroom and
threw up the VHS
watched on
tape.
the VHS tape and in a tape of a Loyola Marymount game.
Hank Gathers and
it was like, guys, this is what we're doing.
Hank Gathers and Bo. What's the other guy? Hank Gathers died, but that's what we're doing. Bo
there
Kimball,
you go.
Yeah, shot left-handed for Hank.
So it didn't take them long to sell us on that kind of scheme.
Which is interesting because your coach's name was Westfall, right?
Yeah.
And West Head was the coach of Loyola Marymount.
Yeah, we were a small team. I was the center. I did tip, but I really kind of helped bring up the ball handling. I had to learn ball handling. I had to kind of bring up the ball because Chad was in the corner waiting for the 3 is how the offense worked. My first 2 games on varsity went a little different than your guys'. I had 28 my very first game on varsity because I was so effing pissed off that I did not make varsity my sophomore year. And I had 27.
Still pissed about that.
Still, yeah.
Fucking A. And 27 my second game on varsity. I remember those 2 games.
And then it was all downhill?
They figured out I was left-handed, I think. I probably had some range of those points many times. I don't believe I ever scored more than 28, which is interesting. But was in foul trouble constantly. I didn't play a lot in most games. Still averaged maybe close to 20 every game, 10 rebounds, but we shot a shit ton. So, my job was to shoot. And so that's what I did. And probably to the detriment of the team. Last high school game I played in, I shot 3 for 19.
Was that our last game?
Yeah, Waupun Regionals, I shot 3 for 19 and shot us out of the game, which if you play with me in open gym, I can still shoot you out of the game. No problem. I have no problem with that.
And you still follow in open gyms like you probably did in high school too?
Yeah, but you're not going to get a layup. You're not going to get a layup. I give somebody a layup, make them shoot free throws. Even if it's my 4th foul and I got to be on the bench the whole second half. It's really kind of driven me, being disappointed with how my whole career in basketball turned out with all the time that I felt like I put into it on my own. So that's probably motivated me quite a bit of my life in a lot of different ways. I thought I'd play in college, and I really never got any looks. And really funny story, and then we can move on from me and we can get into what we're talking about, was I thought I was going to go out in Oshkosh for basketball. I thought I was good enough. I played with some of the guys offhanded. So it was like October. I'm drinking, whatever. It's mid-October. Felt like basketball tryout season. Mm-hmm. So I asked one of the guys, I'm like, well, when do these tryouts start? And he's like, what are you talking about? I had no idea how any of this worked. Like my whole life, I didn't know much about athletics or academics. I had to learn it my own way. Oldest kid, my parents weren't into sports. It's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, tryouts, like, thought maybe I'd play on a team this year. It's like, we've been practicing since the first day. Like, are you serious? And I'm like, oh, I'll just go next year. The guy's like, whatever, which I never did. So I kind of remember that. That was little fun facts for me. I've been coaching youth for 10 years. I do really enjoy it, help establish the Eagles as a program. We try to make good boys into great men. I do it more for spiritual reasons than the game. At this point, I know I'm not grooming anybody for the NBA. So just do it for the love of, truly the love of the game and the love of the kids. So have a lot of, it's really cool. I tell all the kids, if I've coached you, I will always be your coach. If you're 25 and I see you goofing off, I will let you know. And a lot of the kids still call me coach, and that means a lot to me. So appreciate that, and I still text a lot of them and all that stuff. So all that cool stuff with coaching. But that's not why we're here to brag about ourselves or be disappointed in ourselves. It is to talk about WIAA. This is March Madness. Chad had a unique perspective. Shared that in a text. I said we should do a podcast on it. I got some basketball nuts here. It's mid-March. I want to ask you, you've been going to the WIAA tournament forever.
Sure.
Our Kewaskum girls just won their first state tournament ever, got the big gold ball. 5 years ago, they were 123. We've been, without coaching the program or having a kid in it, we're as close to anybody in the program as anybody else is, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not part of the program, but we're close as anybody is that's not part of the program. That's probably fair.
Sure.
So what have you learned? What have you observed? I think your goal, your mission going into this is what you told us, and tell us if you're wrong. And really the reason for the podcast is you were on a kind of a mission. What does it take? Or what was your kind of mission? You had a real focus going into this tournament,
I think
real awareness.
Yep. I mean, always understanding. I mean, I've been kind of paying attention, following along probably ever since we were in high school, and taking my young boys to the tournament just to get that experience and kind of see it happen. Watching our girls win the state title week and a half ago now, you just get a real appreciation for how exciting, how big of a community event that is, and then you just get a deeper kind of.
We play. I mean, just sidebar, right? The
Yeah.
ripple effect of a state championship for a local community. It'll be interesting how long this lasts, but the current ripple effect is so dramatic. I've been hosting or running 5 a.m. Wednesday morning basketball games, as Marcus and everybody here knows.
Yeah.
For 5 years. We had the largest attendance this week than we've ever had. We had 17 this week, and they were fired up. I mean, there's something to that, right? These are the ages of 14 to 50 guys show up, and there's a little thread of those girls within that gym for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt. In fact, a real good lifelong friend, another guy I played high school basketball with, a couple years older than us, Brian Lighthizer, had.
Shout out Chico, I'm sure.
Yeah, Chico. He had made the comment
that was his Spanish name in high school, Chico.
He had made the comment in a text thread amongst a bunch of basketball guys, just the impact that this would have for years and decades on girls basketball. And I said, Lighty, this goes way beyond girls basketball. This is a community type of thing. No offense to that. By all means, it means the world to girls basketball. But this is like a springboard for basketball as a sport in general. I'm in no way am saying that leads to multiple conference championships and state appearances, the magic and all of the things that it takes, but it certainly instills a passion in the game for our youth and for our 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, for boys and girls, and then just the community in general. Seeing Casey was there, seeing we were all there.
Mr. Scheel's a high school teacher as well.
Seeing thousands of Kewaskum people, past players, past coaches, boys, girls coaches, just anybody and everybody, girls that went to state in the 80s and 70s that were there, and just seeing how special that is. But, nobody would really argue that Kewaskum has been like a tried and true basketball community in the way that maybe Randolph or Kimberly or, you pick your ones that have, 10 state titles or something. Nobody would suggest that, but to see that passion build and kind of how that kind of spreads across the whole community and kind of puts basketball on the map a little bit is pretty exciting. So yeah, my focus going into especially the boys tournament was just kind of looking at these teams and kind of capturing what does it really.
And you have a tradition of taking your kids to the game. Like,
yeah,
how many years have you went with your boys?
since Ty was kindergartner or something.
Which would be how many years?
He's 21 now, so yeah, about as long as I've been coaching.
Yeah,
15 plus years.
Right.
We've been doing that. So, and a lot of that, I grew up in Marshall. Marshall's one of those basketball towns, we'll call it. A number of state appearances, and we were close to Madison, living in Marshall, and my family moved to Kewaskum at a fairly young age, but still had ties there, and all of my buddies that I grew up with went to state, and I think we just always had that. We had that dream as youngsters, and instilling that in our kids and having them enjoy that, it has always been fun. So yeah, just kind of capturing what do all these teams look like? Is it, and I think what I found is what are the attributes of those teams? And
Yeah, you use the word like magic, right?
yeah, I mean, I think
the magic?
the composition of all of it, I think, is, I guess I would call magic. I mean, from basketball talent perspective, and we've always talked about, like, what is that mix? We know it takes all of those things: program, culture, team. We use all these words, we use all these definitions, but what is that mix between talent and program and culture and community and all of the things that have to pile on together? And I mean, we probably all know it, but I think you just can't get there. Even conference titles, state appearances, sectional appearances, state whatever it is, like, it takes some mix of all of those things. You can have all the talent in the world with a bad chemistry, and it's probably going to fall short somewhere along the line. So, and I think everybody would agree. You look at our girls' team, and it probably had that perfect balance of all the things that lined up together, and one of those things is a little bit of luck too. A regional final or sectional semifinal game, the ball bounces one way or the other. One call here or there, one shot that got made and another one got missed, and that 2-point game goes the other way, and who knows whatever happens.
Not to mention health. I mean, one torn ankle, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They were very healthy.
Yeah. So there's all of those things that I think we can continue to chat about as to what are all those mixes that create that magic.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the energy at the school spike at all?
Yeah, for sure. The build-up of it, those 2 weeks leading into the sectional semifinal, you could really start seeing it. There's some games when you go to the regular season, student section, not many kids there, but all of a sudden they showed up, and just the culture at the school, it was more school spirits was being worn. I run the school store. I had people from all over the community trying to get clothes and whatnot, so it was really cool from the school aspect, the community aspect. And I think one of the unique things too with that group of girls is they're very senior dominant, and the amount
eight seniors, 4 starters,
yes,
a couple of chemos off the bench.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're all multi-sport athletes. And, that's one thing at the youth level. You try pushing as much as you can is don't specialize. Because, I mean, how many kids have we seen from Kewaskum go to high-level D1? Not many. We've had a couple of football. Eric Perkins, Brandon Thalls. We have Matty Dogs who's going to NJIT, which, I mean, that's got to be the first basketball player to go D1 in my lifetime.
Maybe since somebody like Pam Osterbrink that was in the 89, 90. She went to an Illinois school, but other than that,
yeah, and I think
not
just like
few and far between
your stuff with everything piling on, but just like their overall athleticism and the culture they have of, they're all really good friends. You can tell that on the court. You can tell that off the court. It was really fun to watch, and I mean, the school bought into it. It was fun.
I mean, I do think they were all multi-sport, but yet they were very committed to basketball. To the point, we talked about Chico, shout out Brian again. He was one of their youth coaches.
Yep.
And I often
Yeah.
mentioned to Chad, not to them directly, but man, they're putting a lot of time into this. I mean, they spent a lot of summers, a lot of time in that gym, and were committed. They had enough girls and parents, and it does take parents committed to saying they'll do it. And it might not have worked out. I mean,
Yeah, I was
again,
going to
one
say
ball
that's
bounces the
again
other
that's
way.
part of it.
One ball bounces the other way, and you're like, well, was that work worth it? I don't know if it was or wasn't, but Maddie and Morgan did play basketball year round.
Yep.
Right, the two best players.
Yeah.
They did play year round, even though they did other sports. They were year round ball players, and camp committed, and they did enchantment at the park, which was a give back night for them and volunteered. They were the scorekeepers for a lot of the youth basketball games on Saturday mornings after their games on Friday nights. When we did do youth camps, those girls showed up to work the youth camps, committed, and then they'd have practice afterwards. They committed to the weight room. They made a lot of commitments.
Yep.
That's what it took. They also had some unique talent, athletic talent. They're track stars. Track stars are not made, they're born. You're either fast or you're not. Sorry, young kids that think they can just show up, be fast. You cannot be fast. You also can't teach height. We had some good height. We had 6 foot 6'1", and Julia Steger, is 5'5", probably listed as 5'7", but she can jump. So she was almost a big. So again, they had some nice height as well. So the thread was a lot of things. What components, and I want to kind of see if we can find a common thread. You hyper-watched the girls' games. You went to a lot of their games, right? You watched all the D game, all the WIA boys state games. You've seen a lot of basketball. But this year being hyper-aware, what did you see common threads that we can maybe take away from this podcast? What were you like, this literally stood out? I mean, was it a zone defense, man-to-man defense, style, techniques, bench play, non-bench play?
Yeah,
what were common things that happened?
I saw a ton of different styles, I guess, so I wouldn't necessarily say, I think you got to find a style that matches your team identity. What is that identity? And
I think the coach can carve the
Sure.
identity too.
Sure.
We talk about fast-paced style. I think if you had a fast-paced style, like a true fast-paced style, that should be coming from the youth level already.
For sure.
Right?
You got to get used to it.
Yeah, you got to get used to it. You
Yeah.
can't be like, hey, you get to high school, this is what we do now. I think the youth thing's got to be in sync with what you're doing.
Yeah. I think maybe aside from a basketball, like real basketball observation, is just probably team unity and determination. I mean, just the amount of that I saw from the most successful teams just stood out. Just stood out so much. I mean, we're talking about the girls again, there was just no giving up. The look on their face, on the biggest stage, that determination. I thought I saw that as a common theme amongst the real elite teams. And probably the best example of that is I'd probably use De Pere at the Division I level. They went 30-0 this year, which is amongst 17-year-old kids, 15 to 17-year-old kids, 18, maybe 18. That's an incredibly
To never have an off night is what you're
an
saying.
incredibly tough feat to come out and do that every night. And it takes a bunch of guys. It takes a bunch of, it might be these two guys tonight and a different two, some collection of all of that to make that happen.
And that's
But
the team concept.
I coach boys basketball, and it's probably the biggest struggle we had was we had nights that it looked like we could beat anybody, and then we had a night 3 nights later that looked like anybody could beat us. And that's a really difficult thing to overcome
Marcus,
at that level.
you used to be a former scout. Was he onto something there?
Oh, I think so, 100%.
By former scout, you went to a lot of high school games.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
no skin in the game, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that's the toughest thing is that consistency. Like you said, I mean, going out and watching a lot of games and watching the same kid play a lot of times, to all the points you said of when you had your 32 points against Lamira, and then, it's to go out every single night and continuously be consistent.
Yeah.
Some nights you're like, wow, this guy maybe is a Division II player, and then it's can he even play for us? And there's just that ebb and flow with certain people, but others that just stick and make it through.
And I think if I could, in my opinion, it's building blocks. You have to be fundamentally sound. You have to have a left and a right hand. You have to have your footwork down. You have to know where you are on defense. and again, I'm always like a psychological guy in that way, right? But your brain has to allow you to have other emotions. I always say it's like tying your shoes. You can't think about the court. You have to know things. You have to have a left and when to back up in a press, and very, very fundamental. Like I would love to interview the deep pair coach. Maybe we will someday, right? How often did they scrimmage as youth coaches? I don't see a lot of scrimmaging components to it. You have to scrimmage enough to learn the game because kids don't scrimmage on their own anymore. But there's so many fundamental things. But when you have that fundamental thing, then that team bonding has to come. That we're down 8, but you got this. Like, and that has to come from your teammates, and especially boys. I think maybe girls do a better job of that. Maybe they do a worse job of that if they're more dramatic. At least in our Kewaskum boys program, I don't see a lot of helping each other out mentally. I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. We got each other. This is okay. And that drive, and there's an eagerness to win, but there's this self-preservation of like, we're losing, and I'm going to take care of me. And I'm not good either right now, so I can't take care of you. But who on the court is saying, we got this? Which usually turns into a steal, or, Julia in the state finals, a steal, Maddie Dogg's a timely pass, Morgan with a timely rebound. Because you have to believe you can do it. There's a belief, I think, with winning teams. It has to be built on fundamentals, but it has to be built on that togetherness. And the togetherness comes on the off nights.
Well, that's where,
We can win in a different way. It doesn't have to be about me. It doesn't have to be about you. Or you miss 3 shots, it is about you. Yeah. You're going to make your fourth, buddy.
Trusting somebody else that they're going to make that shot when you're off.
But verbally saying it. Verbally, body contact. On the bench, being like, I know my role and I know what my role is, and that's to support you. That's so...
Yeah,
am I on to that?
I only caught the last 7 minutes of the Kewaskum girls game against Academy of Science, but they had their adversity hit. And it's
absolutely.
Like, it didn't flinch at all. It wasn't like a big deal. You know what I mean? Where you usually see like, those teams, right?
Tears barking at each other,
you
right?
You get there, or if you're undefeated going into state, and all of a sudden you hit some adversity, it's the first real time, and all of a sudden the wheels just come off, right? Like, they just didn't flinch at all. Like, it was like no big deal.
But that's where the team meals come in, and that's where we get each other and talking. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, I was going to say I talk a lot to our high school players about body language. To me, that is just such a massive component of conducting yourself, on and off the court. And you can talk about it a lot, you can give a lot of lessons, but in the heat of the moment, there are those competitors that can like truly practice that, and then there's that real easy ability to like let that go, and all of a sudden that 7-point deficit or 5 down with a few minutes to go, like teams can rise or they can fall.
One of my favorite memes or GIFs is the point guard, the guy misses a shot and he's like this. The guy does this.
UCLA. Yeah.
Oh, UCLA. That thing is precious to me.
Yeah.
Who on the court's doing that, right?
Yeah.
In that heat of the battle.
Yeah.
You can bring that up.
Yeah, and I think to me one of the strongest components that I saw was just teams with the ability to do that.
Yeah,
through adversity, head up, make the next play, carry each other.
Put shit up.
Yeah, when he mentioned the girls the last 7 minutes with Academy of Science, the games leading up to that, I think, really helped the girls. Because you go back to that Oostburg game, they were up, I think, 31-18 at halftime. And all of a sudden, like that, it was a 2-point game.
Sure.
And I think Oostburg even took the lead.
Yeah.
First,
and I was like, oh, great.
This is regional finals.
This is regional final, or sectional semis.
First section.
Sectional semis.
2 games to go to state.
Yep. And then all of a sudden they go to Freedom, playing in Denmark, and that was the same thing where we're up,
Real back and forth
then all of a
game.
sudden Freedom takes like a 6-point lead, and you're kind of thinking like, oh gosh, here we go. But they never flinched.
Everybody
like,
in the gym thought that, aside from those girls on the court.
And you don't want to ever say it, but it was kind of like oh my, like I still think, Oostburg and Freedom would have blown out West Salem.
I thought Freedom was the best team.
I agree. And Oostburg, I think, their 2 best players are freshmen, so they're going to be really good. But I just think Freedom I think they were the best team.
That's a good point.
One of the other observations, I guess, aside from kind of that, I think we kind of hit on like the program culture stuff, just about determination, teamwork, all of that. The other side of it, of course, is talent. And the state boys, I mean, I went up and down the rosters of, at least kind of covered the starting five in all participants in the state, in state. So semifinals, or they either played Thursday or Friday and or Saturday. And one overwhelming component to all those teams was certainly the talent piece. I mean, numerous participants at state have kids committed to play Division I, Division II. Their third guy's playing Division III somewhere.
And not just one kid, right?
No, I mean, these are multiple
2, 3, 4.
kids. So again, all of that program and culture and that piece of it, that's the one side of the equation. The other side is like truly developing that, either having that talent, and we can talk about, ways that teams achieve that and manipulate it, or develop it, and one way or the other, or it just naturally occurs. There's all of that stuff, I think, is part of it.
I do think it is important. Parents, coaches, youth kids, if you ever listen to this, are important. Bring your friends along.
No
I was just
doubt.
preaching that, and I haven't preached that enough. I've just started doing that. You're the best player in your class. It will not be enough. And you may even feel, even as a parent, you might feel little Johnny's going to get ahead of his class and we're going to send him to this camp. It will not be enough, because you're going to end up being the Chad Cook scoring 32 and then 4 the next night. Bring them along. If you're a weightlifter, make your friends weightlifters, because it won't be enough by you lifting weights. It will not.
Yeah, over
That helps your talent.
Since
You're not
then,
exposed.
since the ending of our Kewaskum High School season, I've probably spent lots of time like just taking notes, watching things. That was kind of my goal going into the state tournament. And one of them has just been developing like core values of our program. And that's a big part of it. Accountability was one of them. And I even put, sometimes people look at accountability in a negative light. I don't think we do here at work, but so I just put the word positive accountability, that we can't have one guy on an island doing all this, taking the shots and putting the time in the weight room in. He's got to bring his buddies along. We got to all do this together.
Yeah.
And that's where you get
10, 90, 10, right?
Yeah.
You got to be for the 10%. Quick Urban Meyer story, if you read the book, was great, right? There's a kid working out at, I think he worked out 4 or 5 a.m. religiously, and they said the hardest worker by himself, like in the dark. And he had a key because of his work ethic, and they said, we want your key back. And the guy lost it, what am I doing wrong? I'm killing myself. And they're like, yeah, we know. Get it back to you, got to bring somebody. And they won the national championship that year. They said by the end of the year, because they kept challenging the next guy to bring somebody, most of the team was working out that hard at that time of the day, so that's what it took.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
I should ask you a question. We're flying through this as we always do, right, Marcus?
Always.
A friend of mine asked me a question to make sure we talked about private schools in the tournament.
Yeah.
The impact that has, what your guys' personal opinion about it is. I'm guessing it's negative. And then, do you have any ideas? What would you do if you were on the WIA board?
I'll be the first one to talk about that. Casey maybe has a little bit of a school perspective, but I took some notes, paid a lot of attention to that, and in the boys' state, I don't remember the girls necessarily. It was probably a similar scenario, but in Wisconsin's made up of 5 divisions for basketball, 1 through 5. In Division 4 and 5, 5 of the 8 teams that went to state in basketball were private schools. All 4 of them made it to the finals in Division 4 and 5. So, I think, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Many years ago, WISA and WIA combined. There have been proposals to add like a multiplier, like a 1.65 multiplier to enrollment, which would effectively kind of take everybody up a division. Apparently that got voted down. I don't think it. To me, my argument would be, when you can control your enrollment and have an impact, at least, maybe not, I call it control your enrollment, pick your players, at least have some sway as to who's playing for my team under the, I'm going to keep my enrollment at 200 or less. It's I talk about magic again. For a public school of 200 kids to do that, it's a 1 in a 20-year type of scenario where you're going to have all that magic line up.
Once in a never.
Many schools will never achieve that. and others, maybe they're going to put all that magic together one great year and make a run. But
And you see the same teams there,
yeah,
which is not what just happened in Kewaskum. We talked about for 25 minutes. You're taking a whole sector of Wisconsin that will never have that opportunity, not based on who they are or what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, unfortunate. If it was you, you'd do what?
If,
what would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
I mean, if it were my decision, you would have A and B WISA. All the private schools
Right.
would
So
have
you
their
bring it
own.
back, private
Bring
school,
it back the
public
way
school.
that it was. Maybe lower it down in the public schools to 3 or 4 divisions, whatever made
Right.
sense there. But there'd be a separation. And then if they wanted to do some sort of like
Super game.
super crossover after that,
Right.
I mean, I don't have an issue with it. But they're at the small school level, even probably into Division III. This year was a little bit of an outlier because there were a
Yeah.
bunch of public schools in there and a public school championship at the Division III level. But at those smaller school levels, it's just, to me, it takes way too much magic to compete at Division IV
And
and
where
V.
those schools are located, a lot of times they're
Yeah,
pulling.
that's the other piece
they're
of it, which
pulling
I'll let
from
you
the
talk
other.
about.
I mean, if
From
they're
the big
just
schools, like Lutheran.
Well, they typically reside in larger municipalities.
Metro,
So
it's not Anago.
Sheboygan or Onalaska, La Crosse, Chippewa Falls had
Lake
had
Country,
a
Heartland, right? Lake
yeah.
Country.
Yeah.
Chippewa Falls. Just an example. No offense to Chippewa Falls,
Sure,
probably a
watching
really
this.
great town.
Love you guys.
Their boys and girls went to state in basketball. I think their boys won. Maybe their boys. I don't know if their girls won or not. Doesn't matter. But they both, and they won the football title too this year. Chippewa Falls is a town of about 14 or 15,000 people. Their public school basketball team, which is Division I or II, was 3-21, and their boys basketball team was like 21-3 or so.
And then there's transfers in. You don't
Well,
push back.
I mean,
You're making assumptions.
I'm making assumptions.
Well,
But
how would you control that?
you can't
Can't.
control it, but you control it by having WISA and you have WIA. You have
but
two
said Chippewa
different.
Falls was public.
Chippewa Falls High School is public. McDonald Central resides
Oh.
within Chippewa Falls.
But that
So there's a school
you were
of
talking
200
about- You're not talking about Chippewa Falls. You're talking about McDonald's.
McDonald
Yep.
Central's pulling
is a private
from,
school
Chippewa
within
Falls.
Chippewa
Sorry,
Falls.
thank you.
and you're
Yeah.
seeing the difference
Right,
in that.
right,
Private
right.
school's
more-
really
a
successful.
A more local example, Sheboygan Lutheran resides in Sheboygan. There's
Well-
Sheboygan South, Sheboygan North.
Let's go.
Many years, Sheboygan Lutheran is going to probably beat South and North, and they have an enrollment of about a small fraction.
And you can probably do
of-
that almost every town, right? Springs here in Fond du Lac,
Yeah.
Springs and Goodrich.
Yep.
Where are you at, Marcus?
I don't know. This doesn't really answer the question. I would go back to 4 divisions. I think when they went to 5, I think that just opened it up for no reason. I have my own personal feelings of why I went to 5, but I think that it should go back to 4. I enjoyed, being a kid going to state, watching on the boys' side Division I teams. We had 8 Division I teams because you had larger enrollments.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
more of a, and you look at the attendance, it's
Yep.
continued to go downhill every year, and I think that that's part of it. But also with now, with open enrollment, everybody, I don't want to say every public school recruits, but,
They can.
Vander Blue went
Yep.
to Madison Memorial. He
Right.
lived in Verona. There's all these stories of
Yeah.
kids who, now it's kind of like, private wise, they recruit, right? That's their
Right.
deal. And like Chad said, you get smaller schools who are better than the bigger
Right.
publics, but also open enrollment, you can kind of go wherever. So it's kind of tough for me to say like, well, we'll bring it back to WISA when kids can kind of go wherever
That's
they
fair.
want.
Yep.
That's fair.
So,
With school choice and so on, there's
Casey?
I don't know if there's a right answer to it. I was actually I taped the girls' games and then came home and Stephanie Hauser was on it, that they've got proposals out there that I think are getting voted on this week or next week about, because I think WIA sees the problem too.
It's kind of like a competition thing that they're working on, right?
Yeah,
Like
and
where
it-
size of school won't be the only component.
correct.
I
There's
like there was a multiplier.
multiple factors.
There's
and-
other states doing it. It's like a competition multiplier. I think they're almost like seeding them to some degree, right? Division seeding.
I
Well,
haven't
it's happening.
researched it enough.
We're not here to talk about football, but it's happening in football to a point right now.
Right.
I mean, the new conference layout enrollment was certainly not a huge
Consideration
factor,
at this
not
point.
a
That-
consideration.
And not to get on a separate topic, but that to me is where years ago with all this conference changing because of football, I don't know why the district thing for football never passed. Because why do we have to change the landscape of all these conferences constantly with enrollment? when it was really a football issue.
Yep.
You know, that we were driving it because of football, and it didn't make any sense. You know.
And then we have conferences that are only football based, and then every other sport is still with whatever conference the school was
It takes
originally.
away your rivalries. It takes a lot of things away.
Yeah.
You're driving 2 hours now.
Yeah.
That's another point.
I would do the multiplier. I like moving up the private schools one division. I think that's
I like
I
the
think that's
multiplier
fair.
when they.
I don't think that's universally fair. I don't think it's universally right, and there's probably a lot of problems with that. But I feel like that's
I don't think it
an
would.
easy fix, an easy, simple fix that's would be well received, and it doesn't take away from talented teams. It just kind of moves them up. In a perfect world, I'd love to see the old wrestling, and I know other seasons quickly take place, but I'd love to see one more weekend, and maybe we eliminate one game somehow along the tournament path. And I don't know how that all would work, but I would love to see the divisions play each other. Hoosiers.
When you look,
True champ.
if you look back at the.
Which I would really love if they did that in wrestling. They used to do that in wrestling, I heard. That'd be unbelievably amazing. Because that's really an individual thing, and why they're even division based at all is a little bizarre to me. I get you want more champions. I get why they do it, but I think it'd be really cool to have a super weekend for wrestlers.
To Marcus's point too, I think the room to do that with like limiting the divisions would be, if you look back at the Division 1 and 2 brackets,
Well, and that's-
almost everybody had a bye in that first Tuesday of playoff games.
Yeah.
The big schools
Nobody
all
played.
had byes. They didn't play until Friday night.
So, you actually,
So
you could
there's
probably
room
go-
in there to condense that
And I would
and
like to go
fill
back
up the brackets.
to see when it was 8 teams that stayed as opposed to the 5 divisions, or 8 Division 1 teams that stayed as opposed to 5 divisions now. How many private schools won then, as opposed to when they, not to say it would be any
Right.
different, but it'd just
Yeah.
be interesting to see if there was any difference there.
Different moxie. The more teams you get to state, the better. So divisions, and
Yeah,
teams,
for
I don't know
sure.
what that is.
Yeah.
The more people get to experience that, the cooler that's going to be. So, I just wanted to kind of influence. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. The women's at the I was skeptical of having the women's at the Rush Center until I went, and I always thought that was really cheesy. I went there. It felt like the entire town existed because of the girls, and it gave an intimate setting, but yet a true D1 setting. It felt right. It felt
It was
totally
a-
right versus an empty building in Madison, and yeah, you're doing the State Street tour and you're Madison, but it's empty and echoey. That felt intimate, but it felt way big enough. It also felt like the whole city of Green Bay was into it for some reason. That's how I felt.
I loved it.
And I was
Yeah.
always skeptical prior, so I just wanted to mention that. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of said the same thing. You know, that was my first time up at the girls' state at Rush Center, and I kind of thought it would. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, it holds what,
That's a good
7,000 to
way to say it.
8,000.
Right.
I kind of thought it would be
10,000
more.
actually.
10,000. Okay.
At full
Yeah,
capacity.
full capacity. I actually thought it would be fuller in terms of people, but it felt full enough to be a cool setting. I mean, obviously on the game 1, when Academy of Sciences was playing before, I mean, they didn't bring barely anybody. But then you see the Kewaskum side, and it was a ton of people.
It was
I mean,
rocking.
it was rocking. It crossed my mind too. I'm like playing at the Al McGuire Center for years. And that seats about 4,500. I always thought that would be a really cool setting. I've gone to a couple of high school D1 sectional games at that place, and that I still think is the best venue in terms of those high school
The Mecca.
atmosphere games.
Right, the Mecca.
But
The old Mecca. Am I saying that right?
No.
Where are you
The
from?
Al McGuire
Al
Center is
McGuire
on
Center.
the Marquette campus.
it's the women's
I
What are
women's
they-
arena.
What are they?
Marquette.
That place
What are they
holds
wearing?
what, like
4,500?
five?
I
4 or
think
5,000.
That'd be cool.
But,
that could be cool. I could smoke it there then.
You know, and those were always the best high school games. I know we went to a couple there. It probably isn't enough for state. You would have to funnel in and out. You wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to run sessions. But I thought the Rush did a really good job. I know the
That
city
was
of Green
great.
Bay. I mean, I get the Green Bay news stations where I live, and they did a whole story on the economic impact of it in the city, and it's cool. They said they treat it like a Packer game.
Oh, there you go. I've never seen that. That's cool. Things I didn't know. Okay, so we're at that time. Are we doing billboard? This feels like a non-billboard
Yeah, non-billboard
pod, doesn't
podcast,
it?
Yeah.
How can we wrap it up?
Is that one of your crazy questions that you ask?
Well, we ask one question at the very end.
Who's your team to win the national title?
Well, we do a question at the very end, Casey, just so you don't know. We always ask a question. You have one billboard, one giant billboard. You can have anything you want on it and why. Let's close with that. I don't want to get away from it. I don't want to break that streak at 77. You can focus on basketball and say this is my ultimate billboard. We can do a program-related basketball one if you want. But it's your billboard. Do anything you want.
You got yours, Chad?
No, go ahead.
I don't have one yet. One thing.
Marcus, you do it. You got a billboard for a program. What would it be?
Next play.
Yeah.
So that's British basketball, you know. Because I always struggle with that as a player, you know, like
Yeah.
being worried about the turnover or the 2 turnovers you had in a row. And to me, that's what always is about.
And you literally in basketball, it's the sport that is the quickest turn.
Yeah.
And you link that play that shot you missed lingers for play after play, and you fouled somebody. You missed a defensive assignment. You didn't hit assist because you were not present.
Yeah.
So I think next play in basketball, if you can learn that, like that does not matter. I got to go do something on this end. It's hard because those plays linger, especially for youth.
For sure.
Mine would be play as one. You see a lot of individualized stuff, and it's always fun watching. You can tell watching college basketball which teams play really well together, and it takes some places. So play as one.
Yeah, there's all kinds of basketball slogans out there, probably along the same lines. 2 of them that I had written down before I came in here was not billboard related, but 5 is one. That's kind of along the lines of Casey. Or another saying I saw on some shooting shirts was "We is greater than me." Freedom did that.
Didn't work for them, but
Well,
kind of did. They had
it's a
great year.
it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
But
I had 2 just jumped in my mind as we were talking about this. We always start our game with fall 7, rise 8. We say it 3 times, and
Yeah.
we say our mascot. I just think it's like the next play. It does not. You're not judging and that's a life one. You're not judging the 7. Well, these are all life lessons, but you're not judging the 7 times you fall down. It's judged on the 8th time you got up. Like again, you can keep coming back. We talked about resilience and overcoming, and then the second one I had, which is a little bit off what we've been talking about, is I've always liked why not us. Like somebody's got to win conference, somebody's got to win state, somebody's got to have player of the year, somebody's got to be the defensive team of the year. Like to bring to little D3, D4, D5 Anago programs, why not us? Why not us? Why not now? Why not this play? Why not this year? Why not beat this team right now?
just instilling belief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
believe. Why not
Yeah.
us? And also, then why not us is also like the things you can control, which I talk to the kids about, right? We're not going to have a 7-2 kid in Kewaskum anytime soon that I see, right? Unless we're not. All that stuff, like what can you control? Why not us? Can we be the hardest working team? Can we have the best body language? Can we have the best bench? Can we have the best fundamentals? Guys, I think we can control that. If we can control all that, then why not us? Or I'll even say it this way, even spin it back to why not us? One team in the conference will be the hardest working team. Why not us? One team in the conference will have the best weightlifting program. Why not us? Like that's not a unknown. That's a certain. There's a certainty. Somebody will have the best record.
Somebody has to be number one.
Somebody has to be number one.
Yeah.
Somebody has to have the best weightlifting program. And then what can you control within that? Maybe we can't control if we're number one. But why not us? Why not us being the hardworking team? But then why not us being number one if we do all those other things? So I guess it's why not us or Ball 7 Rise 8. Thanks for coming on, guys. Soar Eagles, soar. Go Indians. Any last words?
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Love you guys. Go get it. Hoop it up. March Madness.